So here I have the box for my Trickers Belgrave, my new Adelaides. I'm really excited about these shoes, and I want to tell you a little bit about my buying experience. I bought these through a dealer in the Yorkshire Dales called Petaware, and they have a really fantastic deal when you buy Trickers. You get this fantastic pair of shoe trees with them. The shoe trees themselves are lime wood, and they are stained. And they are normally on the Trickers website. These would be 55 or 52 pounds. I'll actually show that later in the video. But with Petaware, they actually come free. And on your second pair of shoes of Trickers from Petaware, you actually receive a 10% discount as well. Something that they automatically enroll you in called the Trickers Club. So let's take a look at these shoes. Real excited. So first things first, they come with your shoe bags, which are really nice flannel. Then they come with your Trickers care guide and a personalized note from Petaware as well. Then the shoes themselves, and I'm sorry the angle on this wasn't perfect, are these beautiful light tan Adelaides. Now, the Adelaides themselves, this is your typical U throat. They have a cap toe. They're just very, very well done. You can see the brogue details on them are very, very fine. You can see that the heel caps are done exceptionally well as well. There's some burnishing on them as well. There's a bevel waist, and this is in a blind stitch sole. And you can see on the heel there's a number of nails on there as well, in addition to the dovetail rubber heel. Very, very fine craftsmanship. You can see the heel is not tapered, but it is very, very well done. They're very thin heel plates. Then you can see the Goodyear welting along the edge. As we look here, you can see that there is fudging. I need to get that in focus. There we go. And now what's nice about the fudging on these is that it really hides the top stitches of the welt very well so that they're difficult to see, which is just an adornment that I think is really nice. Now here you'll also see that there isn't a lot of groove in the sole. It's just very smooth, which I like. I think it's a really classy way of doing this in a blind stitch shoe. These aren't the fanciest soles of the British makers that I own, but they are very good. Now there is this stain on there, which is because of the of an ink during the burnishing, but it's not. So welcome back. As I take a look at these new shoes, I wanted to compare them out to the first pair that I bought. This is a pair of plain-toe bluchers that I got. This is the Robert. Now these you can see on the inside here are unlined. So you're more of a casual shoe, but a really great fit, a very soft, probably the highest quality museum calf I've ever had. And this is really what drew me to the brand. You can see the sole wear after a few wears, and this is probably like 10 or 15 wears. It's still doing really, really well, given, you know, when I wear my shoes, I wear them a lot. And so as I'm looking at the new pair, you know, I wanted to get something that was more formal, something that is more of one of the classic styles. Now, if you think of my collection, I really focus on the Adelaide, the plain-toe blucher, long wings, and you know, those are, and split toes, right? I mean, those are the four primary areas of my collection. And so I thought an Adelaide would look good. And then I saw these on the rake, and I was really excited about them. But, and I don't know if it was a misprint or what it was, but they were $700 on the rake, and I couldn't understand why they were so expensive. I mean, that's like the same price as a George Cleaverley. And then I looked at the soles, and the soles were blind stitched, and I thought, well, that's kind of weird. Why would Trickers be blind stitched? And so then I went and I looked at the same model at the at the Trickers site, and it was 326 pounds. And I thought, well, that's not $700, so that's kind of crazy. And then I went back and I looked at the at Petaware, and I'm really glad that I thought of it. But I was thinking of getting the trees, and you know, you look on the website here for Trickers, and those trees, they're 52 pounds. And now that includes VAT, right? So I didn't take out the VAT there, so that'll be a little bit less. But that's still, I mean, you're talking about $60, right? So it's a significant difference. And so Petaware, which is a Trickers dealer, has this Trickers Club where you get 10% off the price and you get free trees. And I'm so glad that I remembered it, and I'm so glad that I took advantage of it, because that's like free money. You do that a couple times and you're getting yourself a new pair of shoes. So now what I'm doing now is I'm taking the trees out, and again, I just really love these trees. I mean, they're really great. Limewood, if you're not used to limewood absorbs very, very well. It's just as good as cedar, but it doesn't smell like cedar does. So if you're like a really big fan of cedar and you love the smell, then you're not going to be happy with limewood. But if you want shoe trees that are going to hold the shape of your shoe really well and you know, do the job of taking the moisture, wicking the moisture out of your shoe, then these are pretty good. So now these are the lightest shoes that I own. They're lighter than my Carminas. They're lighter than my old Lokes, and I really want to make sure that I don't darken them. And my experience with Severe Renovator is that it's a fantastic conditioner, but it darkens the leather. And you know, when you're talking about a pair of shoes like this that are that dark, who cares, right? It doesn't really matter. But when you're talking about these, which are really, really super light, I care. So that's when I use this. This is Bic 4. This is, I mean, the company's called Bicmore. Obviously, I don't have sponsors or anything like that, right? This is just something that I use, that I learned on the forums in order to take care of my shoes. And so, you know, this is a vinegar-based conditioner. So it smells a little bit. So if you're sensitive to smell, it's not great, but it's not super, super strong either. And what's great about this is that it does not add color at all, right? Regardless of what it is. And it does a really, really nice job just moisturizing the leather. And, you know, before your first wear, you want to make sure that, you know, the shoes are really, really well conditioned and really, really well polished. You know, when you buy a pair of shoes, and it doesn't really matter if you buy it from the factory or if you buy it from, you know, a dealer like this, you just don't know how long those shoes have been sitting on the shelf. Now, you know, with COVID and some of the things that we're working on now, there's a strong possibility that these were manufactured recently, because, I mean, the factories were shut down for quite a while and stock got, you know, used, right? So, and there's a little bit of a stain here, and I want to see how that comes out. And this is not you know, a harsh cleaner, but it is something that's there. And I don't know that that's a bad stain. I think that this looks like it's shoe polish. That when they burnish it, and by burnishing I'm talking about the little darker here and a little darker here, and a little darker on the heel caps, right? They probably just slipped to the finger and got a little there. So the what's funny is that the thing that I use that seems to be absolutely the best for getting out like a burnish stain like that is actually the wax itself, because that wax will take out the color. Like if I put dark wax on the toe, or dark cream on the toe, I let it dry, and then I'm too vigorous when I'm applying wax on top of it, I'll take all of the darkening off, right? So since I know that I can always use that in order to take off small stains like that. It usually works pretty darn well. So, but we'll see. And you know, I'm obviously if it's bad and it doesn't come off, then, you know, I'll have to call them. But I'm not going to assume that now. I'm just going to assume that it's going to come off and I'm not going to have a problem with it. So it's just part of my choose to see the bright side and not the dark side sometimes, right? It's always easy to see the dark side of things. So, and here we go. I'm just applying the conditioner, and we'll just let that sit on the shoes for about an hour, and then we'll start looking at ways that we can wax it. So what I'll do is I'm going to apply some really, really light tan shoe cream. I use the Shoe Snob shoe cream, which is basically Saphir. So I'll use that, and then I'll use a light wax as well. And then, you know, I may do some dark wax on the toe and on the heel, and maybe along the laces as well, just to brush it up a little bit. But we'll see how I feel when the time comes. But for now, I'm just gonna let that very little bit of conditioner that I put on, again, this it's BICK4. I bought this at Amazon, and this is like $8, right? So if you think about the $8 for this versus a $25 for a thing of Saphira Renovator, it's a good thing to have as an all-purpose conditioner for your shoes. I will do that in between a polish, because I like to polish my shoes like every 7 or 8 wears. And if you've got a lot of shoes, that can take a year, right? So once they get dried out a little bit, I'll put that on and then just brush them up afterwards. It brings the wax will come back out, and the shoes will get bring the shine out really well, but it doesn't change the color or doesn't destroy the shine. So that's kind of the way I look at it. So anywho, thank you for tuning in. All right, well, I'm not very patient, so I know that patience is not my strongest suit, so I'm going to stop pretending that I'm patient and just move forward. So it's been 15 minutes. I'm just gonna do a quick brush on these. Take a look at that sole again. Isn't that fantastic? It's just a great sole. But I'm gonna take care of that. Again, I don't have to be perfect with this. I'm just trying to get it straightened out. Okay. So now, I talked about this before. This is the shoe snob. This is what it looks like on the inside. It's pretty thick. Works pretty well. Does not take a lot, right? So I'm gonna put a little bit there, a little there, a little there, a little there on the back, and then I'm gonna just work it in. If you get a little bit in an area where you don't want it, you just cover it up. No big deal, all right? So I've got a lot on my hand here. I'm gonna go around the edge. I'm gonna try to get as close to the welt as I can. I don't like using the brushes, like a welt brush or a dauber. I feel like I get way too much on if I do that. As long as I keep the color pretty close, I don't feel like that's a big deal. Now I got that stain there again. Again, that's gonna mostly come out, but I'm running out of this on my finger, so I'm gonna put some more on. Make sure I get along the outside there, and helps if I actually have it in picture. So let me zoom out a little bit, make it easier to see. Apologies about that. So that is one coat of shoe cream. And again, light. So we want light so that it doesn't stand out and does not darken the shoe, because I like the lighter shoe. That's part of the reason why I bought these. Okay, so again, you got to make sure that you don't leave it sitting on the sole, because it will stain if you just leave it sitting there. So always a good idea to make sure you get it. Some people are really meticulous, make sure that they get every little part. I try really hard not to overuse it. I'm a big proponent of less is more. And again, just a little bit. Doesn't need to be very much. All right. Now, the trick with this is making sure that you give it enough time to dry and that you bring out the shine in between. So I'm just gonna look at the shoes because I feel like it hasn't been quite enough time. Take a gander, look at the different pieces, make sure that I like it. You know, and if the stain is there, it's on the inside of the shoe, I'm never gonna see it. So not too overly fussed about it. I really like the way this has this lift here. This is the same as I get on my, you know, my TLBs. It's the same as I get on my George Cleverleys. It's the same as I get on, it's similar to what I get on my Carminas. And I really like that edge. It's the same as I get on my Crockett and Jones. So, and I really feel that Trickers is a very, very good substitute for Crockett and Jones. It is very, very much in line. And candidly with these, I'm starting to wonder whether it might be a step up just because I don't have any Crockett and Jones that are hand grade, and those are the only ones that have the blind stitch soles. So, all right, so now it's been a little bit of time. I'm gonna take, this is by the way a brush from the Brogue Trader, which is the Loke shops in Scotland, where I vacationed last year, and never found a big brush like this. Always saw them on videos and stuff, so it's just super excited to get it. And of course I have trouble as a resident of the US getting Lokes here, so I picked up 3 pairs while I was over there as well. So great opportunity to get them. And now you see, this is just a dull shine. It's not fancy, and nor is it designed to be, right? This is just supposed to get us in. And now, a lot of times you like to cross brush as well. I do this a lot on shell cordovan, but I do like doing it here as well, just to make sure I've got a good brush layer. Now, if I was being really nervous about these shoes and I thought that they were too dry, I thought that they, you know, needed extra attention, I would probably put another coat of the shoe cream on it. But they are really not feeling dry. They feel like they're pretty new. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this. Now this is a good example of a whoopsie that I made. I pulled the thing out of here. So you get that, yeah, I pulled the little piece out. So now I have a basically full thing of wax that I've got to really work hard to open. So, whoops. But you want to get the wax on, you want to make sure that it's evenly applied. You don't want a lot. And I know that I just looked like I just put a whole lot on, but I mean, if I used a dauber for wax, you know, it would be this huge, huge layer. And you just put a little bit on your finger like this, it goes a long way. You know, a lot of times I can get all the way around the shoe with it. When they're new, the first couple polishes, you know, it absorbs the wax pretty darn fast. So you got to keep going back. But it is definitely there. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a big piece of wax here, and I'm just going to really work on this little area, see whether or not I can actually get that stain out. It doesn't look like it's coming, which is okay. Again, I think that that's, you know, if I had spent $1,000 on these pairs of shoes, I probably would be having kittens right now. But I got them on sale, and you know, I'll reach out and see whether or not Petaware has any ideas on how to get that out. We'll just see. But I'm sure that there's a good way of being able to get it without resorting to, you know, using alcohol or something like that to strip it, because I don't want to do that. So, but you know, as I do different layers and different colors of wax over the edge of the shoe, that definitely is something that will start to change the way that looks anyway. So now I am a big proponent of using different color waxes and layering on different colors in order to be able to add depth of shine. I don't like doing that as much with shoe cream unless it's very, very intentional, right? So like how they did here, they darkened it and they did a little bit here. I think that that's great. I think that that looks good, but I'm not gonna do it everywhere unless it's dye. And then I'm gonna have a patina artist do it because I've tried doing it myself and I suck at it. So, and you know, I've tried doing like the brogue lines. I've done the brogue lines on a number of Adelaides, and you know, it comes out okay, but you really got to make sure you get everywhere. I've got some that, you know, this line is not as dark as the line across from it, and while I clearly know that I'm the only person who's going to see that on the shoe, it still bugs me. So, all right, now I'm putting this on. Rubbing the wax in. You really want to rub the wax, especially as you're preparing the toe and the heels, because the toe and the heels we're going to spend a lot of time on, because really we want to bring out that shine. All right, so you just rub it in, use the heat and the friction from your push in order to be able to do it. So now I'm going to point out something that I did in one of my shoe battles where I was looking at some really high-end Adelaides. From Gaziano and Girling. They used one piece of leather and it did not have a stitch here, you know, and this has the seam because of the way they cut it. Now, I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. Certainly it doesn't detract from the value of the triggers, but more along the lines of, I think it enhances the value of the Gaziano and Girling, that they take the time to cut the leather so precisely that they're able to avoid things like that. You know, just sometimes it's the subtle details that really elevate one brand from another. Because let's face it, a pair of 300-pound shoes like these versus a pair of 800 or 900-pound shoes like those are still shoes. They still cover your feet. They still walk, and the soles still wear down over time, right? So, you know, the differences have to be things that are more subtle. Now, when you get into the handmade, certainly when you get into the bespoke, where the shoes don't actually have a pattern and they're just really designing them for your foot, you know, it's a totally different world. But I am always interested in how they do it and ways that it all comes together. So again, I'm just putting it on here, really pushing it in. And, you know, my fingers get warm with the friction. And now we'll see how I do it. Okay? So we're looking, we see the shoes. They've got a dull finish, right? So let's take a look and see how I can get these things brushed. So now I'm doing a cross brush. Let's take a look at that. It's pretty darn subtle, isn't it? Not anything that I would write home about. I think I got the edge of the sole there pretty good because I dropped it. But that's what happens when you're a klutz. Now, there you go. So that is your basic polish. What I'll do next is do a little bit of color to make them more mine. And we'll see what that looks like. All right, so I'm going to start adding a little bit of color. Now this is mahogany wax. So now this, just a little bit of red, a little bit of darker brown. Let's try to change the contrast in the shoe. Now it's transparent. That means that you got to put on a lot of layers before you can actually see it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do the same here on the heel. Now you can speed this process up significantly by using the shoe cream, but then it gets messy and you wind up with streaks. And look all kinds of different ways. I like to do this slowly, kind of one step at a time. And how do we get to where we want to go here quickly? There is no quick when it comes to shoe polish. You just have to be slow and methodical about application. And you can do all kinds of things, but again, I don't want to darken them dramatically. If I did, I'd be out there with dark browns or blues or blacks or something crazy like that in order to be able to do it. But you see, it's just a very subtle depth of color. Okay, let's do it again. This side. And I don't think I worked on this heel at all. Now I don't like going all the way down. Try to stay focused on like half of the heel. Because at the end of the day, what you want is you want to change the color, right? Not a big change, a subtle change, a slow change. Right, so I'm gonna let that dry a little bit. Now I push, there's a chunk of the wax, so I push the chunk into the wax and then just get my hands red with the wax, right? I don't want to, again, I don't want to go too much. And if you put the wax on too wet, you got to rub it in more and you got to let it dry, because you're not going to bring out any big shine if it's too wet. And there, I went up like all the way around the shoe, which I didn't want to do. So there you go. That's, whoops. All right. Now that's an interesting technique. I do this to bring out the shine. I don't know why. Beating your shoes up a little bit helps. Don't ask me why. Okay. Now, let's get the first wax here. Looking pretty good. Try to liken it to a pendulum. Sometimes the pushing here does the same thing that my hands did on the other shoe. But it brings out the shine even more. All right, so that side is doing pretty good. So now I'm gonna put that second coat on. kind of go up to the whole cap here like I did on the other one, just to make it more even. Try to get it around the edge here. And along the heel. Now, some people go completely crazy with this. I could get this to a mirror, but I'm not going to do that for my first wear. I'm just going to get it to a nice medium shine. Looks pretty good. Just gonna, I think that's probably good enough to leave it there for now. I'll zoom in so you can kind of see. It's pretty good. You can see subtle reflections. It's not defined, right? And to me that's good enough, you know, for the first wear.